Hello, everybody. You're welcome to Just for Women Africa. My name is Olaleko Amusa, the founder of Just for Women Africa. And today, we're in a Zoom interview all the way from South Africa. We have with us Naki Homai. Naki has a podcast called Living in Fulfillment with Naki. Naki is also a chartered accountant. She worked previously with KPMG. She'll be talking to us about her podcast and, of course, anything else that comes up during the conversation. So stick around and we'll be right back. But yeah, welcome back to Just for Women Africa. We have lost Naki all the way from South Africa. Hello, Naki. Welcome to Just for Women Africa.
Hi, Lakan. Thank you so much for having me. How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm good. Naki, quick one for our viewers in Ghana who'll be watching. I mean, you're called Naki, but you're from Zimbabwe, and you live in South Africa. Could you tell us why do you have the name Naki?
The thing is, when people say you're Naki and you're from Zim, it's very complicated because, yes, I'm from Zim, but I have a lot of mixes on the way. So, yes, my name Naki is Ghanaian. It means first girl child. I was named after my grandmother. So I think it's of the Akan. It's an Akan language, if I'm not mistaken. I don't really know, but I know it's a Ghanaian name.
Okay, that's lovely. That's lovely. So you have a bit of Ghanaian blood in you then.
Yes, I do.
All right, that's cool. All right, Naki. Okay, Naki, could you tell us about your podcast, Living in Fulfillment with Naki? Take us, what's it about?
Okay, so living in fullness is an idea that I've had for a very long time, specifically because I am from a Christian background. So when I'm thinking of living in fullness, I'm not just talking about me being able to, just earn money or being able to socialize. It's really holistic wellness in my life and just being able to take care of myself holistically. So when I started living in fullness, it was all about people sharing their real life experiences, people sharing even their hurdles as well, some challenges that they've had, all in a way to try and impact people's lives. So if you look at the podcast itself, it doesn't necessarily only focus on women. We do focus on both men and women, and it's not from a specific country. We are looking at everyone from all over because I believe everyone has a story. And the only reason some people are not able to share their stories is because they haven't owned their journeys and they haven't owned their voices. So Living in Fullness is a platform that gives people a voice and just being able to share their experiences as well.
Okay, that's great to hear. All right, so what kind of topics do you discuss on your show?
Cool. It's quite a lot. And now that we're in season 2, there's a lot of amazing topics. So it's lifestyle, marriage, dating. We speak about addictions as well, finances. It's just all about whatever impacts people's lives. We have people speak about divorce as well, just their divorce journey and how God came through. But the anchoring verse of Living in Fullness is John 10, verse 10. Which speaks of how Christ came to give us a life in fullness, and for me, that's just what it's all about. People sharing their stories and sharing just the amazing journeys that they've been through. So careers as well, we're bringing in the career aspect of Living in Fullness, where we will have discussions with people, market movers, industry movers, just to have discussions on their career journeys and career paths.
Okay, that's interesting. Could you tell us what are some of the interesting things you've heard on your podcast so far? Could you share with us one or two stories?
Well, I'd have to pick which story it's very difficult for me to pick because I think each person really stands out for me. But what I loved of recent is when I had a topic with the married men and we were discussing about the concept of the one, right? So I did ask them if they believe in the whole concept of having the one, or each person has the one person assigned to them. And one of them guests actually said, the whole concept of the one is a premise for laziness. That really stuck with me because a lot of people do assume, and especially from a Christian background, you have this whole idea of I'm praying for my husband. And you're focused so much on praying for your husband and not really for yourself as well, because there's a lot of changes you probably need within yourself, be it healing, be it changes in character. So there's not specifically the one, because as well, each one of us has free will in the end. So regardless of how you see that person as the one, if your personalities or characters and values are not in line, then you might not end up together. So that's one that I can think of off the top of my head.
But okay, now that you brought it up, so I'll give that question back to you. What is your concept about the one? Do you believe in it?
I don't believe in the one. And I'll tell you, like, which is what I'm saying now, right? That I could assume that the person I'm dating right now is the one for me, right? But unfortunately, they have free will. They have a choice to behave however they want. So if they happen to change along the way, I'm not going to stick by them on the basis of, I really think this is the one person I'm supposed to be with, right? If they change, because there's a reason why you're with somebody, and that reason carries you throughout the relationship, throughout the marriage. It can even lead you to divorce, or it can lead you to a happily ever after. So in the end, we all have choices, and who you are with, don't marry potential. That's all I can say. Marry someone you know you can live with.
Okay, do not marry potential, marry somebody who can live with. That's really quite interesting coming from a woman, because a lot of women I talk to marry because of the fact that they say, oh, this man has potential, he's doing this, he's doing that, he has potential. So if you say do not marry potential, could you explain?
So there are certain instances, right? So you have to also be realistic as well. So there are certain instances where you can say, from a financial perspective, potential would mean, okay, he's got a good career going, he's driven, he's focused. So definitely at some point, he will have the amount of money that I'd like him to have, as I'm working as well as a woman. So there's that side of potential. Then there's potential in terms of character, where you're assuming that, okay, this person is not romantic right now. This person does not listen to me. He's not emotionally intelligent. And I'm very sure that at some point he will change. I will change him. The more I speak about it, the more I speak to him, the more I pray about it, I am hoping he will change and become this potential person I hope he will be. So when it comes to character, for me, I would say never look at someone's potential to change, because I mean, when they marry you, you took them as they are, right? So why would I change now that we're married? You know, you like me as I am, so surely I might as well maintain who I am.
Okay, definitely. So, okay, you did mention two things. Potential in terms of business and money, and character. So which one should they focus on more on, the money or the character?
I won't lie, we need money. Because the world we live in, I mean, it's driven by money, right? It's a capitalist world. So naturally it's driven by money, but I think you also have to be realistic in your expectations. So if you are, for example, 25 and you are marrying 30-year-old, so this person obviously doesn't have as much money compared to a 40-year-old, for example. So if you want a lot of money, then please do go for it by all means, but also be willing to look at the age that the person is at, right? Otherwise, also, if they're quite young and very wealthy, then you also have to look at the source of income. So I think for me, you need both. With character, it's a non-compromise for me. Money, it depends on what are they doing and how driven is the person.
Okay, but when you talk about money and character, those two variables can change within years. Somebody could go from being rich to being poor. Somebody could go from being a bad character to a good character, or from a bad character to a good character. So how do you measure those things as a woman?
Honestly, I don't have a measure for it. I'd lie to you, but one thing I believe is character is the person. It's what makes them. And if at any point someone's character changes, then something bad really has to have happened. Because without being religious, I think what's important is to marry someone who fears God. Not someone who knows God, not someone who comes from a Christian background. Those are two different things. Someone who knows God for themselves, because if the person has a relationship with God, for me, I feel then their character is unwavered, right? And even if they fail or backslide, they always know how to go back to the foundation. When it comes to money, that's why, again, I say your only reason for marrying someone shouldn't be money. Because like you're saying, that can change at any point. What do you do? Do you leave them because now they don't have money? So I think obviously character has to be number one. And if they have money, it's a plus. If they have drive, it's a plus. And one thing I believe as well is if you have a career going and you've gone to school, you're educated, surely, even if you lose your job today, you will bounce back somehow.
I like that. You will bounce back somehow. Okay. So, I mean, so what's your say on divorce? Are you for it or against it, or do you think that if something goes bad in the relationship or in the marriage, you should just walk out and just get divorced, or you should just stick with your partner, or you should just stick with your partner till the end?
I feel I need to put a disclaimer. I'm not a psychologist, I'm not a marriage counselor, but I've got views. So
Okay.
with divorce, I am not for divorce, right? And obviously, Christians would come and say, God hates divorce. But one thing God hates as well is for you to be in a place that is not good for you, where you fail to praise God, where you fail to increase spiritually, where you fail to experience the fullness of life that God has placed for you. So I think if you're in a place that is physically abusive or emotionally abusive or mentally abusive, you don't have to be there, right? Because I think it's also one of the episodes I had with one person on my podcast, an exciting one as well. There's certain times that you don't really have an option but to divorce. And you cannot assume that that's just because you've divorced, you failed, or God doesn't love you, or God is done with you, whatever. I think there are grounds for divorce, and the Bible itself is clear, right? Where there's infidelity, I think where there's a hardened heart as well. And that's because in all those aspects, sometimes it's difficult to trust someone who is an infidel because now there's no marriage anymore. The covenant itself has been broken. So I think you really have to be realistic as to what is this marriage? Is this marriage still glorifying God for me? Or I'm always complaining, I'm always crying, I don't see God anymore. I hate this person that I'm with. So there's a lot of things. It's a very broad topic and there's a lot of things to consider when talking about marriage, right? So I think it's a very broad topic and it's really up to you. If you're in a place where you feel this marriage is no longer glorifying God, it's no longer helping me to understand or to live the life that God has really destined for me, then by all means do run for your
By all means, do run for your life. Okay, Naki. This is really an interesting conversation. I wish we could go on and on and on and on. All right. Why do you think relationships or marriages are not working these days?
So, I'm so passionate about this topic. I don't know if I really want to talk about. Okay, so I'm hoping to have a conference around this. It's something we're working on. So there's a lot of talks around marriage, right? And a lot of people go into marriage after having attended for like premaritals and all that. And mostly by the time you go for premarital, you've sort of decided that this is the person that I want to be with. So whatever topics they're bringing up, it doesn't really sink in. Everything looks easy. It looks like you can do it with your partner because you love each other. But the main reason why I feel marriages are failing these days is because people's expectations are not agreed upon before getting into marriage. People are really excited and they just get into it. People are getting into it for pressure. People are getting into it as a trend. Some people are getting into marriage because they feel they have truly found someone, but without really dating and courting and understanding who this person really is. And people do see some of these red flags, but they do assume this person is going to change. Like I was saying, they will potentially change and become that person that I want them to be. And I think the digital space as well as a reason for divorce these days, because people are comparing their lives to what they see on social media, right? So if my boyfriend or my husband is not treating me the way I'm seeing that husband treat his wife, then he is not the right person for me. And people are more driven by money and careers, I feel, more than they actually want to uphold their marriages. So it's very broad. And if I look at the topics that we want to cover on that conference, and I want it to be a dating conference and not a marriage conference, it's a lot of them. And I think it's also because people just get married in the end, they'll have explored quite a lot, right? They'll have explored they would have done the most. So by the time they're getting into marriage, they have a lot of comparison from out there and they feel that this marriage is not where they really want to be. So it's a lot of reasons I'd assume are causing divorce these days.
Okay. So, but when you talk about expectations, I mean, years back, our parents were married, their marriages worked. So what has really changed from then to now? I mean, the expectations I'm sure were the same, but what has changed from then to now?
Wow, I always have this discussion with my mom and my sisters, and we don't reach a conclusion. So, so I strongly feel there's pros and cons, right? I think back then women were suppressed. Society suppressed women for a very long time. Women were tolerant, they could take whatever is thrown at them, be it abuse. They didn't even see it as abuse. They just, thought I'm a woman, I should keep my mouth shut, I should listen to my husband. And the whole idea of submission was misunderstood as well. So I think that's the main reason from the per side of it. And then if I'm looking at nowadays, women now know their rights. They know how to stand for themselves. They know what God really wants out of them. They know that they've got a future outside marriage. Marriage is not a goal for them. It's part of their life. It's a lifestyle as well. It's not like, oh, I need to get married and this is the goal for me. And once I get into marriage. So I always say to people, a partnership in marriage does not mean a loss of individualization. And I think that's what happened back then. Women get married and they forsake themselves. They forget who they are. They forsake their careers and they're so focused just on being a wife and a mother. And these days, people are not really willing to do that. So some men haven't really warmed up to the idea. And I think then the marriage ends up not working, So I think that's the main difference I can sort of pick up. And back then there was no social media, you had no comparison. So you just think whoever you have is the best.
Definitely. Back then there was no social media. You couldn't definitely compare. I do like his statement which you've just made. It said the fact that men haven't warmed up to the idea of, women, working and taking the center fold. And probably that's what's causing a lot of the problems around these days. What do you think can be done to entangle the men in and let them know that, women are partners, women are there to help you grow, women are, are not there to compete with you?
I think the men have to accept what the world is like now, because ideally, if we also want to look at to really go with what the Bible says about submission and being a provider, then we're saying, women, it's okay to be home and wait for this man to provide, right? But now men are happy with women working and bringing in income, but they want to then complain if a woman is not able to do domestic chores as he saw his mother doing, for example. But she cannot do both. She's got an 8 to 5 just as you do as well. So that's why I think these days it's important to understand that the world is different and understand that you need to work together. Be it as a man, pick up a few domestic chores that you can help with, be it cooking, be it washing dishes, mopping, cleaning. It's no longer about the gender roles and all that. Of course, like I always say, we are, we're not the same, but we're all equal. And you have to know what's the other person's strength, right? What's the other person's weaknesses, and be able to leverage off your weaknesses and strengths and take off the responsibilities that the other person is weaker, that you're more strong at, and work together. It's not about the gender roles really. It's really more about working together towards a particular goal.
Okay. I don't know if you heard this statement before, but a lot of women will go like, okay, I work, but my money is my money and his money is for the house. What do you think about that?
Oh, I'm trying to be, I'm trying to think of what. So the honest truth is, I do not think women have an obligation to provide, but a man does. That's what I think. But because of the economy that we're living in, it only makes sense for both of you to be working and bringing in income. So I believe in joint income and having a joint budget and agreeing on what needs to be done, what needs to not be done. One thing about my husband and I, for example, we have a joint budget and I have an allocated allowance. He's got an allocated allowance, right? I personally think that statement can be misused, and it's okay for both of you to provide. It's not your money. I mean, personally, I don't agree with it in its entirety. I understand that if as a woman, I probably moved to another country with you and I don't have a job, I don't have that obligation to provide, and it's okay. You shouldn't now start looking at me like someone who is failing at what I'm supposed to do just because I don't have a job. But if you do have a job, then the household income is both of yours income. And I think you have to have a budget together and allocate expenses accordingly.
Okay, that's a fair statement. That's a fair statement. I mean, both of you to have a budget together and not provide equally, basically. All right, that's cool. All right, Naki, as we round up the interview, just what's your last words to women out there?
Sure. You know what, with women, I think I always have I always have a lot of things that I would like to speak of around what I really, because I have such a love for women. But one thing I can say to women is embrace your ambitions, believe in your dreams and your aspirations. Do not be afraid to like set high goals for yourself, pursue them, be determined, have that drive, and cultivate self-confidence. You have so many gifts that are placed in you. You are worth a lot and you have capabilities as well. So build self-confidence, seek knowledge, never stop learning, and just develop a support network and just be close to people that really drive you and people that help you to excel. And always remember that not every loss is a loss. Not every loss is a curse. Some of the losses are blessings, and be willing to let go of certain relationships if they're not working for you.
I like that. Some of the losses are blessings. That's a nice one to know. All right, Naki, thank you so much for being with us on Just for Women Africa. We really appreciate it. We look forward to interviewing again. Lots of wisdom in today's podcast, and we hope that women listen and you get to learn from you.
Yeah, I hope so too. It was totally different from the interviews I've had. I was just like, okay, are we going into marriage now? I'm used to being asked about the corporate side of my life. So this is really amazing.